morning, everyone. It's so fantastic to see so many people here at this event today, and hopefully we can have a really engaging discussion with our great panel. The event today, as you've heard, has been coordinated by our office, the Loddon Campaspe Community Legal Centre, and it's been hosted, of course, in this beautiful fixed space at Bendigo Community Health Services. As you heard from Hayley, the Community Legal Centre has been funded by Victoria Legal Aid to deliver child protection and related legal services throughout central and northern Victoria. So this program started as a pilot in 2015, employing myself and my colleague on the panel, Christie. Yesterday, ongoing funding was announced to allow us to continue to work in this area, which is really exciting. I think for me today it's really great to be able to step away from court and client issues to think about some of the bigger questions that confront us all working in this area. And I really hope that we can leave here today feeling a little bit more energised and perhaps thoughtful about these issues when we return to day-to-day practice. I also wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Majella, their elders past, present and future. We've got a really great expert panel lined up for you today, and unfortunately, though, it does not include a representative from the Department of Health and Human Services. Sheree Hermans was originally going to speak on our panel, but unfortunately, she's a last-minute apology. But we have a fantastic panel for you nonetheless. Before we start the panel discussion, we have a guest speaker from the Commissioner for Children and Young People, James Fraser. James is seated just next to Andie here. James is the Senior Advisor in the Aboriginal Policy Koori Advisory and Engagement Unit in the Commission. And also here today in the audience is James's colleague, Wayne Freeman, who's sitting in the front row, who also occupies the same position as the Commissioner for Children. Once we hear from James, we'll have a little opportunity for each member of the panel to hear briefly about the work of their organisation. And then we'll start the panel discussion. We really hope the panel can be interactive with lots of questions from the floor. Obviously, you all work in the space, so let's make this really valuable for all of us here today. Our discussion theme for National Child Protection Week is how do strong communities protect their children. I hope we can explore the importance of how having a shared community responsibility for ensuring the safety of children is important and how we can all do this work better. Before we listen to James, I'll just provide a really quick introduction to our panel members. So to my right we have Andie West, who's the Director of Children and Family Services at Bendigo Community Health. Andie has 25 years experience in the child protection sector, including case management, therapeutic service provision and management and senior management roles. Her position at Bendigo Community Health draws upon her comprehensive understanding of attachment and complex trauma and the impact of early brain development and child development, family functioning, parenting capacity and engagement with the service system. Bendigo Community Health supports many, often vulnerable and disadvantaged families with a comprehensive range of services aiming to prevent their involvement with the statutory child protection system. Majella is, then we have James, who I've just introduced. James, I don't know a lot about your background, maybe if you could just provide a really brief intro. Okay, certainly, go ahead right there. To James's right, sorry, that's good. James's right, we have Christie, who's my colleague. Christie's been working in child protection related areas for over 5 years. She was previously a lawyer at Northern Territory Aboriginal Legal Aid, working in Darwin. She brings a wealth of experience to the panel, having had great experience, of course, with Indigenous families and now in Victoria, working in that space. Majella, similarly, is a senior lawyer at Victoria Legal Aid. In fact, that's in the Loddon Campaspe office. Victoria Legal Aid provides legal assistance to children and families engaged with the statutory child protection system. Many of you may be aware that the team recently published a report called Care Not Custody, which brings to light some of the issues underlying the really high incidence of young people in residential care who may become involved with the criminal justice system. So the report provides some recommendations, including policy reform to prevent unnecessary use of police to manage what's better understood as really difficult behaviour that's often exacerbated by trauma that these young people have experienced. So Majella will be able to provide some comments about that and also more broadly working in this space. Then we have Rhiannon Walker, who's the area manager from Northern Services at MacKillop Family Care. MacKillop Family Services provides many support programs to disadvantaged, vulnerable and disabled children, young people and their families. In her 6 6 years with the organisation, Rhiannon has worked across many of these areas. MacKillop has supported 700 children and young people in last year across the country, so they're a very large service provider. In the Bendigo region, Rhiannon manages programs to support families, including the Cradle to Kingdom program that's just rolled out in Bendigo this year. So this is an intensive anti and postnatal case management program where family and early parenting support is provided to vulnerable mothers and their children. We might now hear from James, please.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going? Thank you for letting me speak here today on behalf of the Commission for Children and Young People more broadly, on behalf of Andrew and on behalf of our team. And so I guess for me, my background, I guess, is working in a social work background, working in various areas of the children's youth space, but also in the adult space, particularly prisoner health, and particularly the social emotional wellbeing area, which is a very it's a strong foundation for how we view health, more broadly, the principles of how we work with our children and young people. Understand it's not just a single sort of approach, it's more of a holistic and a collective approach, which is the strength of our community. I'd like to acknowledge, before I talk about, I guess today I'm going to talk about the findings of our reports. Some of those findings relate to this space, particularly the legal space, but also, I guess, yes, highlight some of the issues, but also some of the positive stuff that's carrying out at the moment. Now that we've got these two reports that were released in, I guess, October last year, the recommendations that came out of that across two reports, they're currently in progress, which is fantastic news, and that's not just through the government, whole government approach, but also the community sectors as well. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners, the Majella people, protecting and nurturing the lands and the waters of this particular area, and I pay my respects to the elders, the children and young people, and families of past, current, and the future generations. But most importantly, I'd like to acknowledge particularly the children and young people who are previously removed and continue to be removed, and those currently living away from home. I guess when Andrew Jacquemus commenced his role as the Commissioner for Aboriginal Children and Young People 4 years ago, there were 922 children and young people now in home care, or in care, I should say. Today, that's close to 2,000. In the broader scheme of things, the number was small enough that we should know and be able to learn about each and every one of these children and young persons to shine a light on their experience in the system, designed to protect them, and for us to make a difference to each one of them. So mid-2014, in partnership with the Department of Health and Human Services, which I'll refer to as the department, we commenced Task Force 1000, which I'm sure you guys would have heard of, which was an 18-month journey to critically review and to review each child and young person's circumstances. In the end, we considered their life stories, the journey, the trauma of the 980 children and young people who were residing in kinship care, foster care and resi care. At this time, this was the greatest number of children and young people known to be in out-of-home care. Sadly, there are now more than twice this number here, which I've mentioned earlier on. The reality is our future leaders comprise just 2% of all Victorian children and young people, but now comprise 20% of all in out-of-home care. For each child and young person, each sibling group we considered, we first looked at their genograms, their family trees. It was important to understand the child's connections to the country, who their clan and their community are. It was important to understand which government and church policies have impacted on their ancestors and what is the continuing effect of intergenerational dispossession, trauma and disengagement. For each child from their genograms, we look to child protection and removal, incarceration and police contact, mental health and suicide, alcohol and drugs, poor education and employment. The same factors present throughout the Royal Commission to Aboriginal deaths in custody remain constant to this day. This was critical to painting the picture. The key drivers for children and young people ending up in care probably won't surprise you. In 9 out of 10 cases, children are being removed due to family violence, alcohol and drug abuse. In the main, the perpetrators were male and could have been either Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, as were the mothers, either Aboriginal or non-Aboriginal. The constant, though, was that the children and the young people are always Koori, Palawa, Murray, Noongar, First People, know that all children removed suffer some form and some degree of trauma, but the question is the degree of trauma. We saw funnily what the Commission saw was not much different from what we found with the Royal Commission. The Royal Commissions into Aboriginal deaths and custodies back in 1991, or in the 1997 Bringing Them Home report, or in fact the 2005 Victorian implementation review of the recommendations from the Royal Commission to Aboriginal deaths and custody. We saw a system with significant gaps in areas with significant lack of monitoring and accountability, racial and institutional bias, lack of knowledge and respect for Koori kin, culture, connections, and most significantly, the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle. Task Force 1000 formed two significant inquiry reports tabled by the Commission in October last year. Both are significant reports centering around the protection and the rights of Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander children and young people. In the child's best interest was an inquiry into the compliance with the intent of the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle. And the second inquiry was always will be Koori children, which is a systemic inquiry into services provided to our children, young people in out-of-home care, which is very much informed by, the work of Task Force 1000. In always will, we made a commitment to work with the Law Institute of Victoria to ensure that all legal practitioners who work within a children's court jurisdiction are culturally proficient. We suggested including ongoing annual cultural and community awareness training to focus on building understanding of the importance of cultural support plans for Aboriginal children and the specific decision-making requirements for Aboriginal children as specified in the Children, Youth and Families Act. This acknowledges the human and cultural rights of all our children in care and also recognises the responsibilities of agencies providing and managing out-of-home care services to enable these rights. However, you may not be aware of how little these two fundamentals of the child protection system are fulfilled. Our inquiries found that the law is clear about the principle, or the child placement principle I should say, and the policies are strong. There's been significant system-level response to complying with the requirements of the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle in Victoria. The Aboriginal Child Specialist Advice and Support Service, Access, as you guys would know, and the Aboriginal Family-Led Decision-Making Program are designed to ensure Aboriginal views are considered each key decision point of child protection intervention for all Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander children and young people. If the practice is not delivered to the intent of the principle, the inquiry could not find a single case where agencies complied with all the requirements to meet the principle, nor was there the necessary management oversight, accountability or practice in ensuring compliance. We found there is a lack of accountability and oversight to check the legislation is being implemented. Things have been left unchecked for years. AFLDM is not happening, vacant positions left unfulfilled in both ACOs, the Aboriginal Community Control Organisations, and the Department, placing decisions unquestioned. And we saw a lack of transparency in engaging with the Koori community in making key decisions. We heard workers did not ask the critical Aboriginality question because they did not wish to offend the parents. We saw the Aboriginality of children not confirmed for years, with the children missing out on mandated coverage of the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle. Other points or aspects we found were 91% of children had a non-Koori carer, 42% were separated from their extended family, more than 40% separated from brothers and sisters, their siblings, and 85% managed outside of the Koori community. We saw far too many children who did not know who they were in terms of their Aboriginality, were split from their siblings and left for years without care, isolated from family, culture and country. Very important protective factors for us. But they might have been in the loving care of grandparents or other relatives. We heard countless times over the 18 months of that task force on almost on a daily basis replacing non-Koori foster placements because no kin were able to be located. Yet, Commission officers were able to find them in minutes by Facebook. If it was not so tragic, it would be laughable. These are deep failures in care, a loss of connection to family, kin, country and culture. There has been a gross duty of care ensuring the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle and related checks and balances have been complied with. As a result of our findings, we made a range of recommendations to the department. The department has accepted all our recommendations either in full, in part, or in principle. We are already seeing big changes in child protection, including seeing the enactment of Section 18, powers that transfer specific child protection responsibilities to eligible echoes. There is legislation and, importantly, increased funding to ensure every child out of home care has a cultural plan. Amendment to the Client Relation Information System, CRIS, the database by the department has been done, which is going to be improving the monitoring of compliance with cultural planning requirements. And as a commission, we look forward to the reporting outcomes from this. However, it's still early days. We've got to be realistic about this. It's early days to see improvement in the space relates to effective cultural connections and identity. We need to ensure that Aboriginal children out of home care have meaningful access to their culture and build a cultural competency of organisations providing services to Aboriginal children and out of home care. While the Commission has been centred to the reforms around cultural planning, the practice, integrity and compliance is critical. We believe these practices will improve, but it will take time and a lot of hard work. And sadly, while we work, these practices will continue. The Commission has been finalising its inquiry to the permanency amendments, and through this work we are hearing there's a lack of compliance with AFLDMs, cultural support planning, and the Aboriginal child placement principle. In some cases, this non-compliance might be driven by either lack of resources, education and training. In other cases, it seems to be driven by simply a lack of interest. And this is not good enough. We are also hearing other concerning practices where in magistrates' courts in regional areas, as children's courts in hearing permanency applications, the presiding magistrate does not have expertise in child protection matters. Magistrates do not pay regard to the Aboriginal child placement principle, nor cultural support plans, even though they are required by law. Magistrates making permanent care orders without there being a cultural support plans in place, or legal representatives who are being paid to represent our children, our vulnerable Aboriginal children and young people, don't know enough about cultural support plans, or the Aboriginal child placement principle that is pushing for them to be done. It begs the question of who provides magistrates with the information they need. We have not heard of one Koori worker employed to advise magistrates' courts that also sit as children's courts. In terms of the Law Institute of Victoria, it has responded to our request of assistance to build the cultural awareness of legal practitioners in the children's court jurisdiction. We are grateful they have accepted our recommendation, and now we will be working together to build awareness of the child placement principle and the importance of cultural support planning. An example being the development of fact sheets on the Aboriginal child placement principle and cultural support planning with the help of Andrew and our team, the Koori Advisory Engagement Team. For all the progress made, there is more to be done. However, I'm here today to listen to your voices, as our team does across the state, to hearing from you about how we can best ensure how we advocate on behalf of the Commission and independent body. Best ensure the service to our future leaders are culturally efficient and integral. Thank you.
Thank you, James. It's really interesting to hear directly from someone at the Commission about the really exciting work that's been going on there, and I think it's really great if everyone has an opportunity to look at those recent reports that have been published, because I think they do provide some really sage recommendations that all of us can be reflecting on and thinking about in practice. I just wanted to note a couple of housekeeping matters. There's lots of seats up the front, because obviously we don't have any microphones today, so if you can't hear down the back, please come and use some of the seats at the front. The other thing I should have mentioned at the outset was that if you did want to tweet something from this event, you can use the hashtag NCPW, National Child Protection Week, or the hashtag #PlayYourPart. Okay, now we might hear from our panel. I was just going to, I suppose, kick off by asking the panel what each of you think is a really significant challenge or issue facing the child protection system at the moment. I mean, everyone's from quite different perspectives within the service system. Andie, did you want to start?
I knew I shouldn't have said this end of the game. I was going for that end, but now it's all. first and foremost, I think it's a demand issue and a resourcing issue for child protection. We work really closely within family support and all of our programs with child protection, and it is a struggle, and we recognise the struggle and a frustration to be able to feel supported in that space from child protection. So for me, I think it's a demand and resourcing issue from the child protection end. It's frustrating for everybody, them included, but at least we have our head around the fact that why, some child protection workers might not be available. Things like that. So
it's incredibly difficult, particularly in a regional area. I think hearing the figures that James just remind myself about the significant increase in children in home care just makes this task absolutely huge for service providers to be able to meet those needs in a timely way, particularly with the legislative amendments that of course propose to impose timeframes on children to being returned to parents. James, did you want to have some comment on that issue?
It's just more just the cultural, understanding cultural support remains and how important it is as a foundation to, filter that work into what services to provide and what the supports, in particular, contribute to understanding the strengths of a community and the different parenting, having parents, our children, young people, from the community perspective. It's important to have that cultural support plans. Not every person who doesn't have that experience, just that insight. We acknowledge that not only practitioners may not understand how in terms of the cultural stuff, but it doesn't mean they can't engage through community. So whether that be through the local community organisation or other areas, or just listening to families, understanding that it can be quite different to parenting in a mainstream way.
Yeah, and I guess just building on that, I would say ensuring that children maintain a relationship with their family and parents, particularly in light of the permanency amendments. I'm not sure if most of you know, but when a child is looking at being placed in permanent care, there's a restriction now in order that they can only have on an order a minimum of 4 contacts per year with a parent. So making sure that children are still able to have a relationship with their parents, even if they're not in the care of their parents, but also with their community and family.
I suppose one of the big issues that legal aid's focusing on at the moment in the context of children that are facing out of home care is that what then sometimes follows is that overrepresentation in the criminal justice system and the response of out of home care providers to behaviours which might occur within residential units. In terms of, I don't think I've got enough time to talk about all of our report, but over on the table there's just a brief summary of what our report talks about, and it also provides you with a link to the report that Legal Aid released at the beginning of the year with respect to those issues. So that's certainly something that Legal Aid is focusing on at the moment.
And I think it's an issue that we can certainly come across in our work as well. Children in residential care being overly represented and loaded up with a significant number of charges as a result of traumatic behaviours that have occurred in residential care, perhaps after they've been moved from family and are acting out. So it's really difficult, and there does need to be a better system response. And I think the VLA paper does provide some good recommendations. Rhiannon, did you want to
So I guess I was actually a case manager at the time of Task Force 1000, so I was involved in that process, and I think it was very enlightening. And I think James is right in that there's a lot more work that needs to be done around that. And I know we as an organisation are really committed to training our staff in cultural awareness training, and that's something we've progressed with and have now in the north and south have all of our residential care staff trained in that space. And so I do oversee home-based care, residential care, and I'm quite new to the early intervention space. And I've obviously got the wonderful Cradle to Kinder program here in the Loddon area. And I guess I'm learning a lot about early intervention. So I've got the perspective from the challenges from a child protection perspective, and in working with child protection from the early intervention to also the other end in out-of-home care space. So I think there are some challenges, and I think Andie was right in saying, it is a competitive issue and a resourcing issue. in maintaining that contact with child protection. So I'd probably say that's probably the most challenging.
I think in the regional context, another challenge that we see regularly, which I think everyone would be really aware of course, the wait times for services. It's just such a significant issue for parents. Would someone from the audience like to ask our panel a question at this stage? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, foster care.
Hi.
And we are at the coalface of the commitment that we have to these children that come into our care as our Indigenous carers in one case, and the commitment we have to their attachment, healthy attachment. I've seen lots of lobbying, and I just would really like to hear the panel's response to my question of, do you see foster carers as an underutilised resource in providing information, stability, and I'll just put in the observation that the carers I know who have taken on the permanent care of Indigenous children, the joy they have in finding they now have a bit more that loves them to connect with. We're in the realm of relationships, and there are 5 people in 5 different parts of the system.
Well, from my perspective, I don't see, I guess there's 2 parts to your question. Foster carers aren't underutilised so much. I think there's a lack of foster carers out there. You know, I think foster carers, kinship carers, anybody who might look after or have some interest in children in the out-of-home care space really invest themselves in that, and we don't have enough of you, just quietly. So, I mean, and I think that again is another bit of a resource issue within the systems that we've created, the broader systems that all interact together. That's another gap. I think if there were more foster carers like yourself out there who are available, who are able to meet those needs, especially those attachment needs of the kids that need to come into care, that would fill a huge gap. Insofar as I think the foster carers and out-of-home care carers, the kinship carers, I think are a wealth of knowledge, and I don't think they know themselves how supportive and how much of a great foundation that they provide for the children that come into their care, whether it be for a short time or a longer time. They, I guess, in that space are a little bit underutilised insofar as their innate knowledge of caring for kids is just so valuable. They might not have all the jargon and all the, the system names for different things like that, but the bottom line, especially around the attachment stuff, if you've got kids in your care in that 0 to 4 age group, the consistency, the boundaries, the unconditional love, all of those sorts of things, our foster carers are more than qualified to fill that space. So,
transitions are an issue, and the kind of winding up of the juvenile justice system, I think it has its root in what you're describing, not coming often enough to the table and relationships not being carried carefully.
Yeah, look, and I think that's again a systems issue. It is absolutely, and it is a lack of consistency for those children and young people as well. You're absolutely right, and yes, I think we could look at the research and we could look at the number of children in out-of-home care that obviously are traumatised or have been exposed to trauma, and that's why they're there. And if they had some sort of disrupted attachment, and we also know that a really good attachment provides the foundations for good decision making, consequential thinking, all of those sorts of things as well. So I think you're absolutely right. Do you want to say it up here? You could probably help us out a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess just to add to that, it's mirroring what you're saying in terms of foster care, particularly in the Aboriginal space, and from the perspective of Aboriginal communities, not enough Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kinship carers, and it's not taken away the importance of foster care in general. I think it's very important to acknowledge that non-Aboriginal foster carers can provide that support that we just talked hear stories across the state of a culture safety plan consists of a flag and just attending a week event or an event, and that's supporting the culture. And it gets back to my point of understanding the collective approach and understanding the cultural importance as a protective factor, significant factor for a young person or a child to engage in, I guess, future opportunity in education. Particularly children or young people don't know where they're from. It's not unusual, I think. For example, you've got children that are coming in from the States, and not always Koori's from Victoria, that may have cross-border issues in terms of who they're wanting to and things like that. But how do we, in light of the lack of Aboriginal carers that may have great insight, how do we support, or how does the community support the department who have foster carers under the wing? How do they provide that in a more educated way, and not having carers to feel anxiety about, okay, look, I've got so much like this child, young person, but I want to make sure I'm going to the culture is right and go beyond what a flag or tapping to it about an event once a year.
Just to turn it's a system issue, and the foster carers always appropriately supported, and many of them go online, find the kids more than do it direct. And there are good stories out there and there are bad stories out there, but it all comes back to the system being to support actual human relationships.
Yeah, and look, I guess it's system issues that take time to improve, we know that. But what can you do to work with that barrier? I think the one thing that Andrew talks about is what we advocate at times is just because there's a barrier to trust with you, whether you're a carer or a worker or whoever you may be, how do you work within that until those systems improve? At the end of the day, it's just taking back to the basics. How are you going to provide a culturally safe service to that child or person? How do you challenge yourself as a non-Aboriginal? I'm not saying this, I don't mean it that way, but how does a non-Aboriginal carer challenge themselves to step back from what they think is right for a child to open up their visions? Because you'll find with the Aboriginal side of communities, over a number of years, hundreds of years, we've been advocating the way we do things is the best way to do it. It's because so I don't want to go into a tangent. I'm very passionate about this stuff, but it's important that understand the system barriers, but also how you work with them to provide ultimately a culturally safe service for whoever you look after.
Yeah. I suppose I wanted to, while we're talking about, system responses and system challenges, it'd be great to hear from the panel about, how services really try and work meaningfully with those kind of hard to reach families, and how you keep them engaged. So I suppose a critical issue in this space, of course, I think we would all acknowledge is how to really build relationships and build trust with families so that the work is meaningful and that so families can really be meaningfully part of decisions that are being made for their children, particularly perhaps as they progress throughout the child protection continuum. Maybe Rhiannon, you might be able to kick off by talking about how the Cradle to Kindle program works with families. And how you build those relationships. I think a really valuable thing about that is obviously the length of time you care in families, which is quite unique.
Absolutely. So the Cradle to Kindle program, for those who don't know, is aimed at a long-term program for families with children from 0 right through to kinder. So hence the name Cradle to Kinder. It's an intensive program and it involves maternal child health nurse, early years parenting worker, wonderful Tam there, and family support workers as well. How we're doing that at the moment, the girls are probably best to talk about it, but I think just that constant being available, going out and doing that inclusive work, involving fathers as well in that is really important. I think that's something the girls are working out as well, that's a really vital thing to ensure that fathers feel included in the process. And it's providing a holistic trauma-informed response. Often we have expectations of parents when they've had their own trauma history, and it's how do we adapt our practice and use that trauma-informed lens to really understand that, where these parents are coming from and using that to work out what do they need, what kind of approach do they need, how do we support them to support their children, and using that to work through some of that and develop those relationships, because a lot of these mothers have that disrupted attachment, have been in the care system, and we need to respect that and try and work with that as well to support them, to support the babies.
Do you think there's a role for lawyers earlier in this space? Because generally lawyers tend to get involved in child protection matters when they're brought to court, and obviously that's kind of a crisis-driven response at that stage. And lawyers then are very reactive to the department's application, and I suppose you're meeting someone in a very stressed environment in court. I suppose our services try to look at ways to reach people earlier, but that has been challenging. Majella or Christie, did you want to comment on maybe ways or the role that lawyers might have in that early or perhaps even post-order space to try and support families and young people?
Yeah, I can start. When we are able to reach someone at an earlier stage, we often will go through their children's rights and their responsibilities, and we will talk about what's in the children's best interests. So by giving people that information, we then are helping them make informed decisions about their family and next steps. I think the process can be really overwhelming, and can be really intimidating as well to be talking to departments. So be able to help with communication and also give them legal advice earlier on. We hope that families are able to stay together because everybody's well informed about their rights and responsibilities and best interests. I was also going to say that we have a health justice partnership, and by building relationships within the health service, we hope to get some earlier referrals so we can do that work, and that's one of the ways that we are looking at working with families earlier. We also have a Maryborough project as well, where we are based in Bendigo and Maryborough, and we're building connections with the community so we can hopefully get those matters earlier as well. So those are the ways that we have been looking at working with families earlier.
I think there are challenges, of course, because I think once you get to the children's court, it's very adversarial, and there's a culture of lawyers only being involved at that stage. So perhaps there's, might need to be some cultural change. Majella, did you have some thoughts on kind of client engagement, or whether or not you think there's a role for lawyers in that space away from court?
Certainly, I think that if people could be provided with some legal advice before they're at the court stage, then that would be excellent. But one of the things that you've raised before in terms of resources, in terms of assisting those people, so while it might be great to give them some advice about, look, these are the issues that the department might be looking at, in terms of then linking them in with services that might be able to address that, that's a real issue. Your program is obviously fantastic, but in talking with you today, there's only 20 spots available. But particularly as a legal service that doesn't just work in the child protection sphere, but working with people who are engaged without the whole legal system. We meet people who perhaps are pregnant. We might be saying, well, look, there probably are going to be issues there in terms of the fact that you don't have housing, those sorts of things, and engaging with a service who can help you address perhaps the protective issues that the department might raise later on. That would be fantastic. So I think there is definitely a role for legal advice beforehand, but I suppose it's going to be a bit empty if you can't then back that up in terms of providing families with options to access services to address those issues that perhaps you see ahead.
And also I think having some good communication with the department as well, and that can sometimes be difficult if the department is saying, well, we're not looking at going to court right now. So I think talking to your clients as well about what the responsibilities of the department too, and making sure that if there are services available, that the department's assisting in referring them to those services. There are some barriers there, I think, if the department's also not working with the family in an active way, it can be difficult to get movement.
And just one of the things about
Addition. Yeah, absolutely.
I just don't understand how that early access would work. I would have thought you said you don't really get involved until it's late in the process. I don't understand how the referral did take place early, but I don't know if you advise. And the other thing I was just sorry, is there some way in which have you got literature or the accessible information for families as soon as they do get involved in the property system, so that they will be given some resources to inform them on what's, it might happen, I don't know, but in terms of the legal rights and the sorts of advice they might get, I just wonder if there's the sort of information that you can really.
Yeah, that's really relevant question actually, because we have applied for some funding to develop and scope from, we'll be looking at working with services to do some scoping exercises about what type of resource would be useful in terms of a tool to inform parents when they've had an interaction with the Department of Health and Human Services. So we are looking at, we're hoping to get that funding to be able to do that. At the minute, we would say that a lot of the resources are quite dated because there's just been some recent legislative changes. In terms of your question about why would you make a referral or at what point would you do that, I can give an example of maybe a family's been contacted because the department have received a report and they've been asked to attend a meeting with the department. We would be able to talk to a member of the family, give them legal advice around, I guess, what they could expect to happen at that meeting or next steps that they could do to potentially improve their situation or communicate with the department. So we could provide legal advice at that point.
So I'm sure that would be really helpful, but how would you get who referred?
How
would you find out about
that? We would hope that services would refer, particularly if services are making a mandatory report.
Okay.
We would hope that they would also make a referral for that person to receive legal advice as well.
So that's another area that we need communication with the services, because I'm sure a lot of services might. Because
what we often experience is that we go to court, there's a crisis situation, and we're at court and we realise that actually that the parents are very cooperative and is wanting to engage with services, and there was a miscommunication or that parent was feeling intimidated or scared by talking to the department. So we get to court and we're able to sometimes resolve it, and then the children do remain with the parents, but there's been this miscommunication or there's been a bit of an avoidance to talk to the department. So if we could speak to a parent earlier on, that might help with that situation.
And just, can I just say, in terms of your question, Victoria Legal Aid has a wealth of information on our website. We also have a 1300 number, so anyone throughout Victoria can call that number at any time and receive advice from a lawyer. And obviously, when you're dealing with this fear, all parties to a proceeding can't potentially go to the Loddon Campaspe legal centre because of the conflict. The advice service in terms of the 1300 number doesn't create a conflict, so potentially both parents could contact that service if they wanted. We already do have some publications. We are about to re-release new ones, which will be in more plain language, which will be helpful. But we also have a publication that I use a lot for young, particularly children who are coming before the Children's Court, and it's basically a cartoon publication which provides some information to them about why child protection may be involved in their case and things like that. So there are those resources. But like Christie was saying, if you're a worker and you're working with a family who you think they're at risk of coming before the court, then I would encourage you to be referring to Loddon Campaspe Community Legal Centre and to Legal Aid, and potentially potentially if you're getting told, oh, we've got a conflict, we can't help. Legal aid's also in a position to refer you to private practitioners who work in this space as well. You don't have to come to legal aid to get legal aid. We provide grants of legal assistance to private practitioners to assist people who come before the Children's Court, but it would need ordinarily to be in a manner that's before the court for a private practitioner to get that grant.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that. I think it gets back to that system. Obviously, we think about the process, and I think with the advocate community, it's about being integrated and working. So we've always worked within the system. That's, I guess, impressed us and done a lot of things to us. But how do we work with that? And there's good examples where within the court process, you can be. It gets back to the culture of safety or the environment. I think court for anyone is quite intimidating, but particularly from an advocate Torres Strait Islander perspective, the historical context and the representation, etc. So initiatives, for example, and this is putting another hat on. Back in my days at the Neighbourhood Justice Centre, I don't know if you guys have heard of that place, but they had a model here in the state, basically it was a model to create a culture of safety. It's not a very court, but it was a model that created a culture of safe environment to have that invited services like the NJC's got a Neighbourhood Justice Centre, a lot of services on the site, as you know, but they invited on this particular day services outside of the community to be part of that day. And that supported the legal practitioners on the day that were at that point here could have those conversations beforehand, conversation environments created in the system that was known to be quite intimidating. The Broadmeadows, like I said, Broadmeadows Magistrates Court, they advise this, and they do have a day, particularly for Aboriginal family violence matters, because it's a central point for other services to I guess, conduct their services in the court, and again, it creates that culture of safe environment. So the voluntary user is familiar with that work out in the community within the court system, and that helps bring down some of that anxiety. So I guess what I'm trying to point out is at times there may be some innovation that needs to be used and utilised, and it takes a bit of courage for maybe legal practitioners or the court to engage better with their community. So this highlights the point of the importance of relationships that, for example, DAC or any organisation was. Look, I know the legal practitioners they have limitations in their role of what can a career organisation, how can they complement that? Is that being done here in this region already? But is it being done in other regions? And that's another thing we've got to look at. It's not just within the region, what's across the state that's working well. What can so it's just I just hear these things about processes and stuff like that, but then it's kind of like there's a barrier because you've got to think outside the square. But the Adrian community has been doing that for a very long time. So it just gets back to understanding the strengths of the community, utilising that, and adapting ways of thinking.
Yeah, I thought Chris had a question there from the audience.
So I just wanted to make a comment about people at court, the downs at court, and anxieties are always, really high. Often we'll have families agreeing to things that perhaps they don't understand in that quite heightened space. So my comment was just in reference to co-location of services. I think that Health Justice Partnership came out of having a lawyer on site at Community Health. I'm guessing that referrals would have been really quite high. So it also spoke to relationships as well. So people coming out to the site for any other reason, could actually access the lawyer as well.
And that segues beautifully. I wanted to give it a big plug as well. Our Health Justice Partnership here has been ridiculously supportive of our clients, of all of our clients that come and access the service on so many different levels. Like our ability to be able to have secondary consults with a lawyer on site, to grab yourself in the first instance, there's Jess and now Lindy, to be able to do a secondary consult, to then introduce our families to a lawyer out of that really heightened state at court, and to be able to give our families a fantastic experience of a lawyer who's not necessarily sitting in a suit in front of you and may speak your language too, is a really, really great experience for our clients. So when we do get to that point, if we get to that point, they have a go-to place. They have a place where there's a little bit of familiarity and there's a little bit of relationships that's already been established to be able to help. So when, insofar as intervening early, we love the health justice partnership that we have with you guys.
Yeah, I think it is a really great model to reach clients who are particularly vulnerable and might be using an existing health service, which is a really trusted space, and they've got those really strong relationships with professionals there. Sorry, Hayley, I'm just conscious to share the questions around a bit.
Yeah, go for it. Just touching on back on Nathaniel, when you were talking about the importance of stepping outside of systems and processes, and to work innovatively with the Aboriginal communities in our regions, and to look at other places that have done it well in Victoria. Is there any that you would suggest for us to learn from, where they have really effectively done early intervention, for example, with legal work, or in this space?
Look, I guess there's a lot of good work happening out there. Like we've got the local justice workers out there that at times they can engage with services. There's and my experience of working at the Justice Centre, the work is coming and providing support for us. I think the key, when I was at the Naval Justice Centre as a career justice worker, the key there was not just to be based in the office. I think what you're talking about MacKillop, it's just understanding the strengths of the community and what works. When I worked in the Heidelberg Magistrates Court, developing a similar model, our Doomsday model, in terms of creating a conscious safe space. The challenge was to get magistrates outside of the court and outside their chambers and actually go speak to community members. And it was fantastic. Magistrate Sue Wakeley, she's fantastic. She had a breakfast with the Victorian Legal Service, which was up the road within her jurisdiction. But she never got that chance to engage because she's sitting in that courtroom. So that's an example, and that continues to go with a magistrate might be attending a justice forum, but they'll be going to a community consultation. And it's for us, we try to break it down, I guess in a legal sort of perspective. It's about respecting the historical impacts of the justice system, but also breaking that stigma by just going out and engaging. And I guess to me it's a simple thing, to most it's not, but it's about challenging yourself, having a yarn with people, help with that do business. One of our strengths is we're in a moral and visual culture. I think the law system is quite written, it's very written, very procedural and adversarial, where for us it's more about, that's why you have a very good circular approach. It's not a square, there's no angles. With a square you can hide behind things, with a circle it's hard to conversation. And so things like that, it's just adapting those elements. And those are some examples. Sorry, I can't give you more.
No, that's useful.
But I guess I encourage you to, if there is a level of justice working here, you've got that relationship with the DAC, is to ask them that question. I can only speak on behalf of my experiences, but it's important to understand the local knowledge, and that's what we push at the Commission, is to respect the proper statewide approach, but then it's just about listening to local needs. That's why we're here today, because we know that we sit in ivory tower up and down, and we know that it's no good sitting up in this ivory tower developing a policy or represent the community. That's not just about profits, we give us too. So.
Is foster care up to 48-hour meetings? And I just want to ask the legal people here. My experience, that's what the trajectory of the case is set. The parent is generally in the same space as someone who has received a diagnosis of cancer, so really they hear very little after. There are caseworkers, there are everyone in the room, and the parent will usually be told to go to that sort of centre and a few other quite procedural things when they're in a terrible state. It then goes to court, it then goes here, it then goes there. To me, that's the opportunity where the situation is least fragmented, where there's a role for some gentle, supportive legal advocacy rather than representation. Has anyone thought of that? Someone dedicated to 24-hour meetings and a network procedurally is a really good question, I think, I'm sure we can complete answer.
Certainly in the report that was released as the evaluation by Victoria Legal Aid, we're looking at really changing our response in the child protection system, and in terms of getting earlier, that's something that we're proposing. And if you have a look at the report, which is on our website from yesterday, certainly those are the things how users to attending that particular meeting that you're talking about aren't necessarily immediate. But certainly that's something that Legal Aid wants to look at because obviously there is that opportunity there.
Before Mr.
Even if we're not often invited to those meetings. That's the problem.
There are systemic issues about the utopia report.
Yeah.
And one of the issues around that is that, as I said, everyone can't be represented by Legal Aid, although Canadian Community Centre, Legal Aid has only got limited funding, and at the minute we put our funding in terms of the court process. So there's a funding issue there as well.
I think it's a really fertile ground for some innovative thinking about how you get a dedicated lawyer. It would be in everyone's interests, particularly the department.
But the only thing is that with one lawyer, it would potentially be at least 3 because of the parents and the child. So it would be a lot of reasons that would be required.
Well, then there needs to be shifted thinking around from that position into legal resourcing.
Yeah, and it may be that there's some scope for non-lawyer advocates to be working in that space as well, and perhaps that could soften, some of the cultural issues that do exist there. Because I think there is a real perception that once lawyers get involved, of course, it's in court, it becomes extremely adversarial, and I think that's hard. There is some opposition to getting lawyers involved earlier, because perhaps there's a perception that the problem becomes bigger.
And I think part of it is also around how do we in child protection work with the family so it doesn't feel necessary to have a lawyer present. How do we help advocate for the family and really support the family through that process, as opposed to just the child. So I think how do we advocate for the family as well and work with the family as a whole system.
But how do you get the legal expertise into the room that informs everybody about the legal actuality of it, rather than just advocating for the department, for the family, for the carers, for the occupant of the child? How do you get that legal expertise in? Because a social worker cannot best with the legal across it.
And perhaps that's consultation and partnership and relationships. And I think that's a really good point. Yeah, perhaps that's something that we all in child protection need to work on, is developing those partnerships with lawyers and saying, this is the situation, going into a 48-hour meeting, just wanting some advice on this situation. Then they can potentially bring that legal lens with them as another.
Bring a legal read as well.
Yeah.
It's missing.
I was just wondering, you mentioned before that the magistrates don't necessarily, even though it's required by law, provide a health and safety package, is that right?
Yes.
But who's putting the pressure on the magistrates to acknowledge that it is done? I'm sure that if that was done, the outcomes would be a lot better and people would talk about it and people might even go to places earlier and build relationships. Who is putting pressure on us?
Well, I understand the solicitors. You say lawyers or solicitors? I always get
Both.
okay.
I don't really think the lawyers are in a position to do it so much so that they could be reprimanded or discarded, but it should be coming from higher above. If it's a law, it should be coming.
It should be just in the practice of the department to prepare that, because that's what they're required to do. But the plan is developed by an Aboriginal organisation in consultation. So sometimes there are delays because it's a partnership developing the plan. But we find that the lawyers do often bring it to the attention of the magistrate if one's not prepared, but unfortunately it just causes delays.
And look, I highlighted that and also before working with Victoria lawyers issue is, and I mentioned this, lawyers are paid. So this is some lawyers are paid to highlight this, and that's not happening. And so then you've got to take a step back in terms of where they're getting their training from, where's the information from, the populations they have, with the local curriculum to build that understanding. So you've got vows who they don't have to legal service, but what does it mean to be away, if it's really it's got to be pressure from the solicitors. I think what I mentioned there with career workers not available, or because they're so stretched themselves because they've got a dual role in the community, not just a professional role. I understand what that means. Not just a professional role, but they've got their personal commitments as well because they have family members of clients and everything else. So it's kind of, I guess that's a resource issue where the workforce and that's currently being looked at. But yeah, the pressure on that, if you had a career worker, also gets pressure and be respected for their views because we find that because they might not have that lawyer or that legal background, their advice may not be taken on board as much as it can be. So it's important that their experience can be quite, it's very important. It's about informing this culture support plan. There is, but we do know that, I do know there's a magistrate for Meadows. She doesn't have a comprehensive culture support plan, she puts it back and she adjourns the matter. So there is that as well. So you've got magistrates that do take the initiative and they understand the importance. Even though we've highlighted a lack of it, there is a shift in change in understanding that. And it's not just a tick box exercise. And one of the things Andrew advocates is making sure those culture support plans are with integrity and not just simply claims as not having a plan or anything like that. So, yeah, there is a shift in thinking, but for us as a commission, we need to highlight the issues, and that's one of the major issues we have.
Just one thing, with the review that Regulate's conducting in terms of the child protection system, and obviously we provide funding for private practitioners to go and represent parents, young people, children within that sphere. As part of our review and report, which was released yesterday, one of the proposals we have is that in terms of practitioners being able to be on our panel and therefore receive grants of legal assistance to represent families, they will be required to undertake cultural awareness training. And so in that context, it's about educated practitioners who appear in this space, that obviously there are requirements there, and so education is a big factor in that.
Education and engagement, I think. Education is good. You sit in the room, I can talk to you to the cows, but the important thing is about that experience. And so, how do you live that experience? You won't understand it, but how do you just simply put it? It's just about getting it. It's just about acknowledging I guess your position in the community. It's not the same as a mum that's got more complex issues or an auntie or a nan who's got more 12 kids because their mums are business. We know that when I say Aboriginal, sorry, I mean that is our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander very represented there on demand. What was the stat there? 51%. Close to that. Yeah. So they're moving out of the system. So, yeah. But yeah, culture training is important, but open your mind up to actually going out and having a couple.
We've noticed recently there's been a preparedness on behalf of magistrates locally to adjudicate as where there hasn't been a cultural plan or a cultural plan has been.
And that's fantastic.
So I think there is that growing awareness amongst the judiciary here of the importance of that connectedness to culture and achieving good outcomes for children.
And that's great to hear. Sorry to give you that negative stuff, but yeah, it's great to hear that kind of stuff.
Anyone else want to make comments from the audience? I suppose I'm interested to hear about, I suppose, given the evidence here and the Constitutional Victim Families Act that became operational in 2016, I'm interested to hear from the panel about, I suppose, how we get that balance right between making sure that decisions are made in a timely way for children, where it may not be possible to support reunification to family, whilst also ensuring that family connection that's so important to really good outcomes for children and young people in their futures is maintained. I think the amendments have been heavily criticised by lawyers working with the Children's Court as a result of the lack of judicial discretion that really is now quite an issue. But I know that some service providers have different views on that and certainly have observed. Did you want to talk to that issue at all?
Yeah, look, as you were talking, Nickie, I was wondering when prior to the changes coming into place, we all pondered about what this would mean for services and the increased probably need and the emergency, I suppose, to get services in there for that time frame. And then I flipped over to, child first has been really busy lately. So it could be a factor insofar as referring families for a purpose to be able to, in the hope of reunification in that shorter time frame. Look, I think we speak really, pretty generally around the benefits of children remaining in contact with family members in an ongoing way, and we make the assumption that that's always a good thing. I also come from a space where I've worked with children at the Centre Against Sexual Assault here in Bendigo, and given that knowledge, I probably wouldn't always say that it would be in the best interest of children to remain in contact with abusive family members when there's been complex trauma over time. That's not to say that they shouldn't stay engaged with extended family members and to know where they come from and have that sense of family and community. So I guess just to make the point that, I think every case is different, and that sometimes it's not in the best interest of kids to stay in close contact, but it is very important for children to know where they come from, their extended family members, and to feel part of family, whatever that looks like. And nowadays, as we all know, family is not just a nuclear family. Family can look like anything. It can be blood relative, it can be not, it can be foster carers, who have dedicated their life to care for children, and the children then grow up knowing that that is family. So I guess just to make that distinction, but yes, I think it is still really important. How that happens, I think really it just needs to be acknowledged as a priority for any services that might be involved with those with the kids in those positions. I guess it's tricky insofar as the likes of a family support service wouldn't necessarily remain engaged once the children might be in care necessarily. They could be, but they might not be because they would be considered now safe, in a safe space, and on the up and up. It's a tricky one.
I think for so many parents is that they then don't have a lot of support in the community, and how do they ensure that they remain connected to their children? Perhaps other things are occurring for them, or all too often there's.
Absolutely. So my focus when I was talking, I suppose, was around the children.
Yes.
And so your focus when you just talked there was around the parents. So
yes.
And there's needs all over the place.
Very.
And we do need to be mindful of that as well. Yeah.
I know it's getting the balance right, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
really difficult. Christie, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, so can I just add to that, just with the cradle to kindergarten in the Loddon region now, I think the flexibility of a longer term program and the flexibility of being able to stay in even when children have been removed and support, contacts that are not often enough
services and department that's well resourced as well.
I'm very disappointed with the erosion of judicial discretion because I think within the context of this space, each family is unique. And I think that if magistrates are able to have regard to the Section 10 best interest principles, then that won't always require such a strict timeline, particularly when you might be dealing, for instance, with families with parents with intellectual disability and things like that. So, in my opinion, I think that it would be far better if magistrates had more discretion and they could just focus on the Section 10 best interest principles, which would allow individual responsibilities for individual families, taking into account all of the issues that affect them. And obviously, the number one requirement with respect to Section 10 is the best interest of the child. So if we were to just follow those principles, I think we could have some really good outcomes for families, and particularly the resources are there to assist them when required.
I guess on behalf of the Commission, we did an inquiry into the pregnancy amendments, and you might have been part of the consultations that were done earlier this year. So I guess the only update I have in terms of that is that the report's been given to the Minister, McCarthy, so that's publicly known. It's on our website. It's still a bit of promotion if you want to check it out. But it is with the Minister, and because she's asked this inquiry, it's up to her. It's her decision whether to release it publicly. So, look, fingers crossed, we hope it is released publicly, because there was a lot of interesting, as part of some of those consultations in the southern region, for example, there's a lot of interesting comments, and it's wearing on everyone's saying here. So yeah, we hope that it will come out, so keep an eye on that space.
Majella, would you be able to talk perhaps just briefly about some of the recommendations that have been made in Victoria Legal Aid's care of custody report about, I suppose, reducing the incidence of young people who've been in residential care, then also being
safety and how that's a big push now to, in addition to cultural awareness, it's about safety. The elements of cultural safety is about reflecting on your position as an non-owner person, as a professional, for example, and how you, that's not a word, share that journey with that person without bias or reflect, understand that your position maybe is different. So all that kind of stuff. So it's important, I guess, for me just to highlight that you can have certain